Hey y'all, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you. Welcome, welcome to this place. Oh Lord, that I passionately call the mental house. I want to touch on some more stuff that took place while I was on my little vacation. Um, and dealing with this sickness, this cold, this right here, y'all. Y'all got to comment. Big U, big U, big U. You know who I want to say is the modern day Suge Knight. The modern day who in our city? Who do we have? We had R.J. Ferguson. We have see this stuff go on in any hood USA. We had James Johnson, R.J. Ferguson, Running Bear, Crab, Milton Freeman. These were all big pimps. Iceberg Slim. Matter of fact, y'all seen that Pimps Up Hoes Down when Cube, Ice T, I'm sorry, came to. In fact, he filmed that whole documentary here with Kenny Ivy. I grew up with Kenny. Shout out to you, Kenny Ivy and Lynette Ivy and uh, the whole Ivy family. Actually, shout out to you guys. Um, and Hamp's Hash House. Anyway, any hood USA got um, certain elements. Certain elements um, like to go for the girl side, and some of them like to go for the pimping of unsuspecting people mantra. And then that way they can be guys, they can be girls. It don't matter. They just taking advantage of anybody that they see as a weak link to get the money from them. So when I look at Big U, like I said, I didn't seen it all before. We didn't seen it what Al Capone. We didn't seen all this stuff before. Unfortunately, though, anybody white that participates in this behavior, after they get done with it or catch enough cases, they can just cut their hair, put on a suit. They have the complexion for the connection, and so they can do something else. They don't have to continuously be a menace to society. Okay. Whereas with your black gangsters, they just terrorize until they die because they have the mark of the beast, of course, the color, and it's you can't get out the skin that you're in. So once you start that life being a black man, um, and more than likely you don't have no other way to um, express yourself or any other way to make money, um, and your greed becomes a big part of you, then you end up like these guys, Suge Knight, Big U, and for the most part, people that are destroying and don't mind destroying their own people, cause that's what I got a problem with. I really can't listen to a lot of people when we talk about, especially black folk, talk about what white folks are doing to us when what we're doing to ourselves is worse. Cause I expect it from them. I don't expect somebody that look like me to kill me um, for a petty ass reason, and that's pretty much worthless ass paper. No, not money backed by gold, not pieces of paper backed by silver, uranium, or none of it. These are ruthless. I mean, um, these are meritless pieces of paper with nothing to back it, and you willing to kill your brother or your sister for it. And you gonna see now in a minute, cause this shit ain't gonna be worth nothing, and we gonna be sitting up here with a bunch of worthless paper. Keep messing with Donald Trump. But I ran across this story, and it was footage, new footage, thanks to Rizzo. Um, Rizzo uploaded a video that exposed how Big U killed PnB Rock at Roscoe's Chicken and Waffle. Well, one of the worst things they did was he went to the wrong one. He went to the Chicken and Waffle House that's directly in the hood. And but you know, it shouldn't be like that. This ain't what we should be suffering from our own people. You know, I mean, you know, it was just not happening. It shouldn't be happening. Somebody said, well, y'all been dancing like we've been dancing like that forever. Look at Bumpy Johnson and all the rest. We've done more things than to dance in the white man's underworld, y'all. We really have. And for all our magic, it's a shame that we took over from where the Italians did, and we can't leave this way of life. That we killing each other, one another. Anyway, I'm gonna stop. And y'all just check this out. This is PnB going into the Roscoe place. Here comes some dude coming in to rob him.
This new footage just blew the lid off the PnB Rock case, and it's looking real bad for Big U. First it was the hit on Nipsey, but now it looks like he was behind the hit on PnB too. The FBI just confirmed some details that got everybody Big U is a straight-up menace. Big U hasn't been officially named in PnB Rock's murder case, but the details surrounding the situation make it hard to ignore certain connections. Loose Cannon, someone closely associated with Big U, admitted in an interview that they were both at Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles when PnB Rock was shot. First, he said he was alone.
The crazy part about it is I was at Roscoe when it happened.
You know, dude was like, he wanted that chain. He said,
one thing about a lie, you gotta keep telling it, or you gonna be all screwed up. And you gonna be, because you ain't gonna remember everything you said.
no, and boop boop, no questions asked, and just took it and bounced.
But he stood on his business, but then it ultimately cost his life.
And then in another interview, Luce added Big Useless, probably referring to Big U to the mix.
No regard
It
for
was
life.
like super messed up, because at the end of the day, it was me and Big Useless in there when it happened. So when it happened, I wish I could have just told him, like, bro, just give up the jury and we get it back to you later. But it just happened so fast, and he wasn't cooperating.
Big U himself, however, was asked about the PnB situation, but as you can expect, he kept his mouth shut about where he was at the time.
The situation that happened with PnB Rock at Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles, you know, when it come down to that situation and everything like that, what are your thoughts on what happened to PnB?
I mean, it could happen to everybody. Just to be honest with you, I have spoke on that. It's about greed. You know what I mean? Greed, envy, same thing I did. I mean, I did that. I was on the other side of I grew up and I lived on the other side of where PnB Rock was.
That alone is suspicious, but when you consider Big U's alleged reputation, it raises even more questions. People in LA don't believe in coincidences, especially when it comes to high-profile hits like this. Big U has long been accused of running an extortion racket, where people get robbed and then have to pay him to get their belongings back. That sounds eerily similar to what happened to PnB Rock, who was targeted for his jewelry right before he was killed. And now, with Big U being hit with a RICO indictment that includes charges for murder and extortion, it's clear he was involved in some heavy criminal activity. While PnB Rock's case wasn't specifically mentioned in the indictment, it does paint a bigger picture of the kind of business Big U was allegedly running. But just because Freddie Lee Trone was convicted for setting up the hit doesn't mean he was the only one involved. In the streets, the person who pulls the trigger or orchestrates the robbery is rarely the one making the real moves. Hits like this don't just happen randomly. There's often someone higher up calling the shots, but because of street code, fear, or knowing how the game works, nobody's gonna snitch on the person who gave the order. Loyalty and silence run deep in that world, especially when dealing with someone as powerful as Big U. So even though his name hasn't been officially tied to the case, that doesn't mean he wasn't involved. It just means nobody's willing to say it out loud. And with this new footage dropping, the streets are starting to take a much closer look at what really went down that day at Roscoe's. What should have been a regular meal with family turned into a crime that shook the entire hip-hop world. But was this just a robbery gone wrong, or was there something way more calculated behind PnB Rock's murder? You see, with the clips we've just seen, Luce might have implicated himself and Big U in the case. Now, Luce didn't explicitly say, yeah, we did it, but he admits they were on location at the exact moment PnB Rock was robbed and shot. And considering everything we now know from this RICO indictment, where Big U was running an extortion racket, this is looking real shady. The way this operation supposedly worked was that Big U's crew would rob someone and later help them recover their stolen goods, but only after squeezing them for money or favors. And Luce's wording in that interview lines up with exactly that. People had to check in with either Big U alone or him and Big U in order to get their own stolen jewelry back. That sounds like an extortion setup. And again, in that RICO indictment, Luce is described as Big U's enforcer, the guy who was out there actually robbing people on Big U's orders. What makes this even crazier is that PnB Rock himself actually talked about these LA robberies before he was killed. In an interview with Bootleg Kev, he admitted that people had tried to rob him multiple times in LA before. He even warned others about it. PnB knew how dangerous it was, yet he still got caught up in a situation.
So why? I'm sorry, y'all. If he knew how dangerous it was, why would he come? You know, because let me just say this before I act like I don't have no thought process in this. We all know LA is the entertainment capital. Okay? However, you know, it depends on the kind of music that you do. You can get your music pushed, and you don't have to be at behest of killers. I mean, look at Raheem Devon. Nation of Islam, I believe, pushes his products. Okay? And you really, I'm not saying that that's, they're exempt from human behavior. But what I am saying is self-hatred can't be the leader of the movement. So, in other words, if you have brothers who don't have no love for self, they just got love for things, they don't need to be in no kind of positions of power or where they're over other people to be, because they're going to manipulate them, they're going to take from them, they're going to steal from them, because that's pretty much all they know. And as slaves, we've been taught to hate and that our lives are not valuable. So it's easy to do something like this to one of your own. Okay? You ain't telling Justin Timberlake or Taylor Swift to check in, and you ain't gonna tell them to check in. Hell, what happened when you told Eminem to check in? Was it all good? Or was he saying, y'all better get lost? Or I'm going to pull somebody out on y'all? I don't know. Tell me. Leave a comment below. But this that happened to this young man and all the other young men that just lose their lives over nothing, over things. Oh God. I guess it's hard to explain that to a young person. I guess you got to do a little bit more living to see that your life is so much more valuable than a goddamn chain across your neck. Your life means so much more. And you could be so much more valuable to your community and to yourself and your family if you pull out the better half of yourself. Your magic. Not your lowest, but your best. Let me go ahead. I don't want to preach.
Situation where Luce and Big U just so happened to be present when he got robbed and killed, that is highly sus. But there's yet another aspect to this whole messed up story. As we've been seeing lately, Luce and Big U have had serious beef for a while. Luce has been speaking out against Big U in interviews, even making wild claims, like saying that Big U was behind Nipsey Hussle's death. He claimed that before Nipsey died, Big U called him and said Nipsey was already dead. But when Luce called Nipsey himself, he was still alive. Minutes later, Nipsey was shot. So Luce has been pushing the narrative that Big U sets people up for a while now. Now with this RICO case, Big U is under serious fire. People are questioning his entire operation. Luce's past statements are getting a second look, and the internet is running wild with speculation. Big U's fate is looking grimmer by the day. He is in some serious legal trouble after the feds hit him with a massive 43-count indictment, and they are not playing. This case is exposing a whole different side of him, one that completely contradicts the public image he's been pushing for years. The feds are basically saying he was running a full-on criminal empire. According to the charges, he was leading a mafia-style organization called Big U Enterprise, and they were allegedly involved in all kinds of illegal activity. The indictment ties him to the 2021 killing of aspiring rapper Rayshawn Williams. While they haven't officially linked him to PnB Rock's case, a lot of people think there's more to uncover there. The feds also say he was running an extortion and fraud scheme where he'd set people up, rob them, and then help recover their stolen items for a price. And if that sounds familiar, it's because PnB Rock warned about these exact types of setups before his murder. On top of that, Big U's Developing Options charity was getting public money and NBA donations, but instead of using it for the community, he allegedly pocketed the cash for himself. Even worse, he was also accused of scamming COVID-19 relief funds. The feds claim he's been hiding money and dodging taxes for years. This isn't just some minor case. This is the type of indictment that puts people away for decades, if not life. The feds made their move on March 19th, 2025, when Big U turned himself in. He's been sitting in custody ever since, and his arraignment is scheduled for April 8th, 2025. And let's be real, the feds don't drop a 43-count indictment unless they feel confident about their case. This is looking real bad for him. What's really crazy about all of this is how Big U has spent years branding himself as a reformed gang member and anti-gang activist. He's been out here working with city officials, NBA players, and community leaders, even getting funding from the mayor's office for his so-called community work. But behind the scenes, the feds are saying he was running a criminal operation the entire time. If these allegations are true, then Big U wasn't helping the community. He was exploiting it. Right now, it's looking very unlikely that he'll walk away from this unscathed. A RICO charge alone is enough to put him away for years. And with all the financial fraud, extortion, and red room allegations, he could be facing life in prison if convicted. At the end of the day, we're not saying Luce or Big U confessed to anything in their interviews, but their words were definitely reckless. The fact that Luce casually admitted to the two of them being inside the restaurant at the exact time of the robbery, knowing what we know about Big U's alleged extortion racket, makes this a huge red flag. So the question is, do y'all think Luce Cannon and Big U had a role in PnB Rock's murder, or was it...
Okay. I'm going to stop it right there. So what do y'all think? You know, and the sad part is, I heard he got a son that plays for the Rams, Davion Henley. I mean, this is what I mean by being so drenched in that culture that you ain't thinking about nobody no more. Not your kids, not your wife, you know, and they got to live in this community because, you know, while you tough, you tough. And as long as you the head of the gang, you know, that's a false sense of power. Here you are, 55, damn near 60 years old, and about to go to jail. I couldn't do it. I couldn't take it. I couldn't take it. Extorting your own people, fraud, you know. And so all I'm saying is if that's what you choose to do, when it all comes crashing down, or when it all falls down, deal with your consequences. Don't be talking about black people this and black people and trying to help black people. Don't do all that. Take your lumps like a man. Deal with it. Because really, people like you that have stuff like that done to his own people, they need you off the streets. And they need you off the streets. Yesterday wasn't soon enough. I don't know. What y'all think? What y'all think? I want to know your opinion on it. What you think Big U is responsible for PnB's demise, for Nipsey Hussle's demise, all these beautiful young black men? I mean, do you think that he is the leader of Crip, and that he's sending all his minions out to extort folk like Chris Brown and Draymond Green and all these guys? Do you think that that's the truth? Or you think they just making this up on him? Jeez. All right. Let me hear your comments below. Okay? And if you like what you hear, please subscribe and share my channel. I'll see you in the next video.